Welcome to the Eczema Warrior Podcast. I'm your host, Julia Chen. I'm here to help you heal your eczema naturally so you can finally live your best damn life. Many years ago in my own eczema healing journey, I was stuck and confused on how to heal my skin. Fast forward to today, after many lessons learned and lots of trial and error, I'm now living my best life and traveling the world with clearer skin. If you're an eczema or TSW warrior who desires a life of food freedom and is wanting to heal your skin without steroids while using mindset and manifestation as a tool, you're in the right place. Now let's get into it. Hello everyone, I am beyond excited for today's episode. First of all, it's the very first episode of my podcast. And I have been thinking about launching the Eczema Warrior Podcast for a while now, and I'm finally doing it, and it's going to be so great. And the first episode is going to be all about my story with eczema and topical steroid withdrawal. And a lot of you asked me about my story, so I thought, why not start the podcast with this episode? Now, before I get into it, I want to give you guys a life update. So maybe some of you have already know that I've been traveling since the end of November, so it's been a while now. At the time of this podcast, right now I'm actually sitting in my bed. Just arrived to Antigua, Guatemala. Beautiful town, super cute. I can't wait to share more about it, but it's been the whole day just walking around, enjoying the museums, the churches. There's really good food and coffee and such cute shops. And it's just been so great just being able to travel and work at the same time, but also just be in such beautiful weather. And I've been traveling since the end of November. I was in Costa Rica, which, oh my gosh, stunning. And then I spent quite some time in Colombia because I have some friends there. And then now I'm alone in Guatemala, but I love it. I'm going to be going to this really cute town near Lake Atitlan, which is Atitlan? I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's a really famous lake here in Guatemala. And then I'm also going to be hiking a famous volcano here as well. And after I do those things, I'm going to be sharing it. So I can't wait. What else is new? Besides me kind of just traveling, having fun. Oh, CYE recently started, which is my signature group coaching program. We had our very first call at the end of January, and then we have weekly calls together every Thursday so far. So that's been really good. We've got a really good group of both eczema and TSW warrior, and it's just so great to hear people's story and help people heal and just focus on mindset and manifestation, which I'm huge on when it comes to healing. So yeah, that's pretty much what's been going on with my life so far and coaching. Other than that, starting this podcast and really dedicating my time on this, which is going to be great. Okay, so let's get into today's episode. My story with eczema. Get ready for this because it's going to be quite a long one. A lot has happened since birth, I guess, because I was actually born with eczema. Not a lot of people know this, and I feel like most clients that I have either develop eczema later in their years or some of them have had it since birth, but I'm one of those people who was born with it. So when I actually came out of my mom's womb, I had rashes. I was red. And my mom told me that right away they diagnosed me with eczema because my skin was just not great the moment that I was born. And when I found out about this, because honestly, I didn't really know that I had eczema since I was born. Obviously, in my teenage years, I knew how my eczema was, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But my mom had told me that my eczema was really quite bad. It was probably moderate eczema when I was born. And I asked her actually not too long ago, how come I have eczema? Like what caused it? Because my sisters don't have it. I have an older sister and a younger sister. In fact, they have really good skin and they're more prone to acne. And I have really dry skin. Mixed, I have both dry and oily, but mostly dry. And of course, eczema. And so my mom told me that when she was pregnant with me, she ate a lot of spicy food and she craved a lot of sugar. So she ate spicy food. She also ate a lot of shellfish. She told me that she often ate shrimp, she ate lobster, prawns, and then she was also really liking spicy food as well and sugar. And so I'm assuming that the reason why I started developing eczema was because of my mother's diet, which makes complete sense. There's a big connection between the health of your mom and what she ate when she was pregnant, her lifestyle that can definitely pass down to the baby. And so during that time when she was pregnant, because she was eating all these foods, one of the main causes of why I developed eczema, because she likely didn't have a good microbiome, which is important as a mom when they're pregnant so that conditions like eczema don't develop. So I thought that was really interesting because I never really knew why I had eczema. I thought it was just genetics, but we now know that genetics isn't the entire reason why people have eczema. There's so many different root causes that I'll eventually record an episode on about. But besides root causes and genetics, the health of your mother and what she ate, her lifestyle, her stress when she was pregnant makes a huge difference on the baby. And so that's why I was born with eczema. And it was quite bad. Now, moving on to my teenage years, because I believe from the day that I was born up until I was maybe 10 or 11, I don't think my eczema was so bad to the point that I actually had to use steroids. I remember starting to use steroids in 7th grade. So that would have been when I was 13. Yeah, 12 or 13. And so I remember my mom taking me to my family doctor and he would prescribe me topical steroids. Now, I don't exactly remember what I was using in the early years of my eczema journey, though I know for sure he started prescribing me pretty strong steroids right from the get-go. And I remember having tubes of clobetasol, which is one of the most strongest topical steroid you can apply on eczema. And I remember him telling me that, oh, you can apply this every day on all the patches that you have on your skin. And I used to have eczema in the most common eczema spots. So creases on my arms, I would get them there. I used to get them a lot in my inner thighs. I had it on my fingers, and then a couple spots here and there, like on my thighs and behind my knees as well. Those are my main spots. And so throughout my teenage years, I would apply clobetasol, I would say almost every day, because I would have these flares and I didn't know the side effects of topical steroids, and they would make the redness go away. So I would apply it every day, maybe a couple days in between if it wasn't so bad. But I remember I was using it at least 3 to 4 times a week. And then I would have breaks, right? Sometimes my skin wouldn't be as bad. So maybe it would have like a couple months of not using it. But I remember always having at least a tube laying around at home. And so that was basically how my eczema was managed in my teenage years up until high school. So on and off from age 12, 13 up until high school, I would use topical steroids. And then I remember in high school, I actually didn't use it as much. I was actually looking back at my high school photos. My skin was okay. There wasn't, you could tell that I had discoloration and a little bit of patchiness, but I don't actually remember applying topical steroids as much in my high school years. So that would have been grade 8 is age 15, right? Age 15 up until 18. Also, my memory is really bad. So I might have applied it more than I can remember, but just thinking of it right now, I don't think I actually applied it as much as I did in my earlier years. And so I didn't know at that time that you could heal eczema naturally and that you could manage it without steroids. So obviously from the time that I was born up until when I stopped steroids, which I'll talk about when I did that, I always had a steroid with me so that whenever I went through a flare, I would use them. But the thing is, with my flares back then, they were never like too bad. I would say my eczema was mild to moderate. And again, it would be in those areas where it's very common, like behind the knees, creases on my elbows. I had some on my neck as well, I remember. So I used to apply clobetasol on my neck. And then when I entered university, so I went to university right after high school. So when I was, 19? I started to notice more and more flares. Now, they weren't terrible, but I remember that whenever I was stressed out, because university was so stressful, you guys, like studying science and just trying to pass my chemistry and biology courses, I remember just like working full-time, going to school full-time, and it was just a lot. I remember getting only 3-4 hours of sleep every night and waking up early to go to school. And school was far from where I lived. It was like an hour and a half bus to go to the school, my university, and then an hour and a half back. So 3 hours of commuting. And my first class would be at like 8 a.m. So that means I had to be leaving my house at 6, which means I had to wake up at 5 a.m. And then my last class would end at 5 p.m. And then I wouldn't get home till 7 p.m. And then I would have to study because the courses are so freaking hard. And I would study until 1 a.m. and then wake up again at 5 to go to school. So I had a very stressful lifestyle starting university. And that's when I noticed my eczema got worse. I remember being at the coffee shop and noticing I would get like more patchiness on the creases of my elbows. I would get itchy in my fingers. And then, of course, I would use the clobetasol, which I was still being prescribed at that time. And in my early 20s, so this was like 3 years into university, this is when I actually started to become more interested in studying nutrition and wanted to pursue a career in dietetics. And during this time, I was also exploring natural healing because I realized that obviously the steroids wasn't working anymore. I would apply it and it would still flare. And I was very stressed and I didn't know how to manage my stress back then compared to now. But I wanted a solution where I didn't have to rely on steroids anymore. And so at that time, I actually had no idea what topical steroid withdrawal is. But what I did instead is that I just looked online, like, how do I heal eczema naturally? Is there a practitioner I can go to? So then in 2015, this was when I was, how old was I in 2015? 23? That was 8 years ago. Wow. And I'm turning 30 this year. So I was 22 at that time. And I looked for a naturopath because that was like kind of what people were suggesting. Like, go to a naturopath, like they know all about natural healing and see if they can help you with healing your skin. And so at that time, there was no like eczema naturopath. There's nobody that really specialized in eczema. So I just kind of chose a good naturopath in downtown Vancouver. She had really good ratings, and I just went to her and I asked her, okay, this is my problem. I have eczema. I'm using steroids and I want to heal. So then we explored natural healing through healing the gut. She did her whole assessment on me and said that I got to change my diet and implement these supplements. Also consider not using this steroid and seeing how that would go. So then on March 21st, 2015, I decided to not use the steroid and start following her protocol, which she gave me, which was a elimination diet, unfortunately, which nowadays I don't actually agree with. So I was put on an elimination diet and a bunch of supplements for healing the gut and skin support. And I followed this diet and this protocol for, I would say very strictly, for 6 months. And oh my gosh, those were the worst 6 months of my life. My skin completely went out of control within the first 1 to 2 months. Full blown. My entire upper body was red. I was itching so hard that it was deep in my bones. For my TSW warriors out there, you know what this feels like. I was flaking so much that I don't even know how I'm still a person because of all the pounds of like flakes that was coming off my body. It was insane. My hands they look like hamburger meat because they just look like they were burnt with acid. And I was so confused of what was going on because I didn't know what topical steroid withdrawal was at all. And so I thought at that time that my eczema was just getting worse. And so in the first few months, I was like, okay, like my eczema is just getting worse, but why is it getting like this bad? Like, shouldn't it be getting better now that I'm off of steroids and now that I'm, implementing a diet and supplement protocol? And by the way, you guys, like before implementing any diet or supplement, I had not the best diet. I was a student. I didn't have time to make food. My parents would make me food, which home cooked food is always like better. But I remember I would eat a lot of beef. I would eat my parents used a lot of oils that weren't necessarily the best. At school, I would just like purchase whatever I could in the cafeteria. So it was definitely not health conscious. And so it was a big change for me when I saw the naturopath and she told me to implement these things. But anyways, so the first 6 months was terrible. I had like all the symptoms, the oozing. And I think it was by month 2 where I was like, okay, this is not eczema. Like, let me do some more research to see what else this could be. And that is when I discovered topical steroid withdrawal. I was like, oh my gosh, like these symptoms make so much sense. I went on itsan.org, which is a nonprofit organization that advocates for topical steroid withdrawal. And I was like, oh my gosh, these symptoms are totally the exact ones I'm experiencing. So that's when I knew I was going through topical steroid withdrawal. Unfortunately, I had to self-diagnose because some of you guys might know that there is no diagnosis for topical steroid withdrawal. And there used to be a forum on the Itsan website, which is no longer there. I don't know why, but that forum was really helpful because I connected with a lot of other TSW warriors who were going through the same thing back then. And that's when I learned a lot about what was going on. So then the first year was hell. I couldn't do anything really. I had to take many months off of work. I was working pretty much full time as a waitress back then, but I had to obviously not work because my hands were just affected, my whole face, my neck, everything was just not, I was just bedridden at one point as well. And then at the same time, I was in school. So that was a whole challenge in itself because I almost got kicked out. Like my teachers didn't really understand why I couldn't perform as well as at school. Like nobody really understood that how much my skin was impacting me, like not just physically, but like emotionally and mentally as well. And that was really hard for me because the last thing I want is to fail school and not pass. And I was so close, you guys, in getting kicked out. Like, it's not even funny how many times I had to go to the principal's office or like go to the, she was like the head of the department for nutrition. And she was like really questioning whether or not I could even complete my degree. Anyways, that was a whole other issue on its own. But TSW was like so hard in the first year that I just, thinking back, I don't really know how I got through the first couple of years because it was really hard and I didn't have a lot of support. I had my parents, but they didn't really understand what was going on. Honestly, my friends weren't really around during this time. Like, I had my close friends, but I just never really saw them because I didn't go out. Obviously, because my skin was so bad, I stayed home a lot. I spent a lot of time alone. I don't know how I did it, but I did. So I really went through topical steroid withdrawal quite lonely. I made some good friends during the process because in 2015, there were a few warriors who I will never forget. You guys know who you are. But other than that, I kind of just tuckered through it on my own. Compared to nowadays, there's a huge community. Unfortunately, a lot of people are going through TSW right now, but there's a much bigger community. There's more support. There's more practitioners out there that are helping people with TSW, including me. And so back then, I really just had my practitioner who didn't know about TSW, as in my naturopath, and then the other TSW warriors that I met from the Eczema forum. So first couple years was the hardest. And then as each year went by, it got better and better. I started having less flares. They were more localized. I did have an anniversary flare in 2016 though. It was like the worst flare of my life. That one was full body and that was really bad. I didn't sleep. I was oozing everywhere. I could barely function. And that lasted for 3 months straight, maybe 4 months. And then I suddenly had really clear skin. So during my topical steroid withdrawal journey, I would have like really bad flares and then I would have clear skin. And I would go up and down, up and down. And then as the years passed, the flares become less and less and less. And then they started to localize to certain areas. They were no longer on my face anymore. That cleared up pretty fast, I would say in the first 2 years. And then it started affecting my wrists, which were always an issue, but my wrists and hands were the most impacted, I would say, in TSW because they lasted the longest. The wrinkles, the elephant skin went all the way up to even 2020. So 2015 to 2020, I had really deep wrinkles and elephant skin on my hands. Did I have flares the entire time on my hands? No, there are times where it was better, but I always had the deep wrinkles that were really hard to get rid of. But then what really was the game-changing thing for me in my journey was, so I stopped seeing the naturopath, first of all. After maybe 2 years of on and off having sessions with her, I just didn't, first of all, the elimination diet didn't do anything. I didn't figure out if I had any allergies to anything. It didn't make a difference on my skin. So I just returned back to eating like a normal, wholesome diet that actually helped more. And then supplements, I was always on and off. Like I took hers for 6 months. But because I was going through topical steroid withdrawal, it was really hard to see changes in the first few months of implementing your protocol. I'm sure all the supplements she gave me made a difference because, of course, they're all good quality supplements. They were for my other root causes. They might have helped my healing to where I am today. And yeah, so I took her supplements for a couple years. And then I started to try other different ways of treatments. I looked into homeopathy, which is using herbs to heal my skin. I went to a functional medicine doctor in Vancouver to help me figure out which homeopathic medicine to take. Did it for like 2-3 months and it got too expensive. And I was like, I don't know if it's working. So I fell off of that. And then I started doing juice cleanses because I was desperate. Didn't see a difference. I did a couple liver cleanses, celery juice diet. You guys heard about that one. Also didn't see a difference. And honestly, so all of those treatments that I did happened between 2015 to 2018. And then by 2018, I was like, oh my gosh, I am 3 years into my journey and I still don't know why I can't fully heal. And that is when I found my acupuncturist, who I still see as of today, even though I'm traveling, but whenever I'm home in Vancouver, she's a godsend. She literally changed my life. Because of her experience with eczema and TSW, I don't know what she did, but the moment that I started doing many acupuncture sessions with her that's when I started to see my skin healing skyrocket. I went from having itching, deep wrinkles, and elephant skin, and of course, like some rashes here and there, to like clearing completely from just doing acupuncture. Insane, right? However, because me being so inconsistent, so the problem with me and my healing journey is that I was always so inconsistent. I would try a few things and I would give up because it didn't see results right away. I would do things for maybe 2 months max and then I would give up. So I'm sure if I implemented the other protocols for a longer time, I would have saw better results. But the only person I actually really committed to and stayed consistent was acupuncture. And that was when I saw the best results. Now, 2018 to 2020, because I started seeing good results, I started doing more things. I was like going out to eat whatever I want, drinking more alcohol, and just like living my life, which is totally fine. But I ended up going overboard because I feel like I missed so much of my life that I wanted to just like live my life since my skin was healing so well from acupuncture. But then I caused my healing to go backwards because I just wasn't taking care of myself anymore as much. Fast forward to today, so moving on from like 2020 to 2023, I wanted to go back on track in terms of like no longer drinking so much. By the way, I'm not an alcoholic. I know I sound like one the way that I'm saying this, but I used to party like almost every weekend. Binge drinking, I would say so, because I would like have nights where I would like go have shots and like go to the bar. And then I would like regret it because the next day would flare. And so I really decided to make the conscious effort to really focus on my nutrition and not wasting my practitioner's time, because she put a lot of work in doing acupuncture on me, and I would just do things that she didn't want me to do, like drink alcohol and like eat processed food. So in 2020, I was like, let me change my diet again. But this time I'm not going to do an elimination diet. I'm just going to eat a whole foods diet. I'm going to avoid gluten and dairy. And I'm going to try to eat how I eat today, basically just protein, fats, and fiber. And wow, amazing healing. Pairing my nutrition with acupuncture, game changer. Made my skin clear, completely clear in 2020. And of course, 2021, 2022, that's when I started my business and I started coaching clients on how to heal their skin, because I realized how powerful it is that you can actually heal your skin naturally using nutrition, with lifestyle changes, and everything that I learned from basically the day that I was born with eczema. I saw such a significant change that I wanted to teach others on how to do the same. And so fast forward to today, 2023, I am literally just at a place in my life where I've never been so happy. I went from being bedridden to now living my best life and traveling and just not having to worry about my skin, like at all. Do I still have flares here and there? Of course. I have my triggers. When I have a couple drinks, I know my limit now. It could still flare me. If I'm too stressed out, my skin always flares when I am too stressed. So I'm just like you. I'm an eczema warrior and I have to take care of myself, but I know exactly how to heal just because I've done so much research. I've experienced it. I've done a lot of trial and error. And so now I know what works and what doesn't work. For me, and this might not apply to you, what didn't work for me was the elimination diets, the cleanses, the inconsistency was my problem. And what really worked for me was acupuncture, a wholesome diet, started implementing mindset and manifestation, and it really has changed my life. If I didn't combine all of these ways of healing, I would have still been really stuck if I just focused on acupuncture. And I always tell this to everybody, like, healing your skin isn't just about focusing on one thing. You want to obviously do what feels aligned to you, but just nutrition isn't going to be enough. just stress management is not going to be enough. Just acupuncture is not going to be enough, right? It's finding what works for you. And what worked for me might not work for you, but I'm sharing to you in this episode today on exactly my entire journey over the last 30 minutes, but also like sharing with you what I did in terms of diets, supplements, cleanses. And now what I do is honestly acupuncture for maintenance. I haven't even seen her since November and my skin's been great. Mindset, honestly, is the top thing that has helped the most with my healing. Over the past couple months of traveling, I've had a couple flares from late nights and drinking. And when I used to have nights like this, my flares would last weeks. But the moment that I implement my own strategy to heal, which is my nutrition that I always follow, a mindset practice that I always do, I heal my flares within a week. And it's crazy. But I see it within my own eyes, and I'm just so excited to share more of my tips and share more of how that can happen for you as well in my future episodes. So yeah, that is basically my story. I'm pretty sure I covered all of it, literally since the day I was born up until now, today, 2023, turning 30 in a few weeks. If you have any questions about this episode, feel free to go to my Instagram at juliachen.rd and let me know what you think. If you have any questions about my journey, if you have any comments, let me know. I hope you enjoy this episode, and I'm so excited to launch more of these episodes to help you on your healing journey as well. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, a good rest of your night, and we will see you in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Now, before I let you go, I want to let you know I have this amazing free eczema visualization meditation. This visualization has helped me so much in my healing. It has helped me manifest skin healing faster than I ever imagined. My clients and I use it. We use it all the time in our group coaching calls, and it's honestly the best tool to use when it comes to healing. Now, if you want this visualization, all you have to do is leave us a review and give us a rating. Take a screenshot of this podcast and your review. Send it to our email at hello@juliachen.com, and you will receive this amazing free visualization. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss out on this one. This visualization has literally changed my life. My clients and I do this every night before bed or even first thing in the morning, and it helps them heal flares faster. Okay, look forward to hearing your review, and we will see you soon.